Hey everybody, Edo here, and for this week's League video, we have a discussion about what it takes to become a full-time publisher from a part-time publisher. This was a backer-requested topic, and I wanted to talk about it. Though interestingly, Pencil First Games is not a full-time publisher. It's a part-time hobby, right? Like, I have a full-time job in addition to Pencil First Games. So I thought that was a relevant thing to bring up, but having worked with other publishers who have made the transitions, or other people who have made the transitions as publishers, I think that I can talk to some of the things that it takes and to keep in mind, though again, I probably wouldn't be doing this topic if it wasn't because of the backer request. I will say I have spoken to Keith Mateka and interviewed him and done Q&As a number of times, and he is somebody who's gone through that transition with Thunderworks Games. He's now full-time, and I did an interview like when he was considering it, and then we did a retrospective about a year later about what he learned. So I think if you're really interested in this topic, those two videos, those two interviews are on point in that regard, and I can see if I'll find them and link them in the description. So, well, I think to some degree, and I start this way for a lot of things, you really should start with like what you want to be when you grow up. And what I mean to say is like, you know, you're making games, maybe you've had a Kickstarter, maybe you just want to make a games, but you really internally should decide what it is you love doing, what it is you're passionate about, what it is you're really good at, and look at that to determine what you want to become. You know, certainly making games is a lot of fun. Having the opportunity to do it on Kickstarter is a lot of fun, but that's a big difference between saying I want to do that as something I enjoy on the side versus I want to devote all my time, my livelihood, and success towards it, and what are those things I need to keep in mind. You know, sometimes because of a Kickstarter, you sort of get thrust in that direction. You have to make a company because of the tax implications and a variety of things. You need to start working with other groups, and perhaps it was very successful, so you're very quickly to think, oh, maybe this is the right direction for me. Also, people have different financial situations and opportunities. Maybe the case is that you're in an ideal spot because of some severance package or whatever, where you now have open time to do that kind of thing. So I think it's not a one-size-fits-all, and even the definition of a publisher is an interesting part of it. There are publishers who effectively just publish their own games, right? And some people would argue they're not publishers, and I think Tom Vassell did a video where he sort of talked about that a little bit. Like, his whole thing in a number of videos has been like, Kickstarter creators shouldn't be publishers, or game designers shouldn't be game publishers. And I think the main thing that he gets into when he talks about those things is really like, if you're just making your own games and publishing them, you're really just a game company making your own game, versus a publisher who's somebody who's like actively seeking other games and other titles by other people, aggregating them and bringing them to market. You see the whole spectrum. But so to get to the question at hand, first and foremost, I really think you should be thinking about the financials. I know that's not where anyone really wants to start, but if you're like, well, I'm going to go from this part-time thing to this full-time thing, really understand costs and expenses, because that's going to be the thing that allows you to succeed as a publisher or fail as a publisher, because ultimately, games are a hit-driven business. Some titles work, some titles don't, and your ability to weather the ups and the downs is part of how you're going to have lasting success as a publisher, and that ability, generally speaking, is financial. So, again, unless you're independently wealthy, but then you've already can look through this. So, start with your financials. And first, do you understand your own personal budget? Do you know how much it costs you to live? How much it costs you with your home, your food, your car, your internet, your family, your debt? Like, do you really know what it takes month over month, year over year for you to be successful? How much money do you personally need each year in your pocket after taxes to like be at a level of comfort you're willing to accept? And in that process, define what that comfort is. Is it ramen? Is that your comfort level, or do you want to be able to go out to food? Like, really sit down and understand what your personal needs are. And then perhaps other people involved in the publishing company. But start there if you're like, should I do this? Once you've done that, then look at this publishing company as a business and think about what amount of money it needs to make in order for you to then get that amount of money you've said, right, that you need. Because, you know, the difference between part-time and going to full-time is, I mean, almost by definition, it not being your main source of income to it being your main source of income. You really got to think that through. And where you live has a huge difference. Doing this in California is very different than doing it in Ohio, right? The cost of living, all your expenses rolled in is super important. Do that first. It doesn't have to be the reason. It isn't about being rich. I don't want to take the creativity and love out of it. But boy, if this is really, should I go from step where I am here to where I am there, at least understand the risk. Understand what you're taking on, how it's going to go, and then maybe it doesn't work out, but know it. So you're going to look at that and say, how much money does this company need to make for me to cover my expenses? And again, company's going to make money, it's going to get taxed, then you'll have money. So like, make sure all of the expenses of the company, who do you expect to hire? Are you going to have staff? What are the components of it? Where's it going to operate? What, like, go through all of that to be like, it needs to be this big for me to get this, for this to be successful. Okay. Then you've done all that. What do you got? Do you have product that was on Kickstarter? Is it in the market? How close is the company today to that company you just mathed out? Is it beyond that company already? Well, then you're at a pretty good starting point. Is it under? Okay, well, how are you going to get there? Oh, I need 3 more games. Well, perhaps you want to stay in that part-time until you have the company surpass that. Because, boy, you're going to be under a whole lot of pressure if you're jumping to that other thing before it's reached that threshold. And you want to know what that threshold is. That threshold might be impossibly high. If you have a huge family, if you live in an expensive place, this is board games, you may never be able to look at that and be like, boy, I could make ends meet with that. That might be the reality. And it might not be a problem, because you can make a game, you can make many games, without that being the reality. So just think about that. But, so you look at where you are, and then you can say, okay, with this, I got this. Let me do some math. If I do 2 of these, I get to here. If I do 3 of these, I get to here. And basically what you want to do is you want to build a slate. I'm sorry this sounds so financial, but like, again, if the question is, how do I do this full time? You can, like, you can just do it. Like, you don't have to give anyone's permission. But these are the things to say, can I sustain myself and do this? Not like, can I have a whimsy and try and fail? So I need this, I need this, I need this. So you're going to basically build out a product slate. Here's what I have. Here's what's coming. Here's my capacity as an individual. Because I've done one, I can do another. And then, well, does that work with these games? Well, that would be this Kickstarter money, but then there's the cost, and no, I need more titles. Okay, what then does it take to have more titles? Well, can I be the designer of all of them? Maybe not. Then I need to hire somebody. How am I going to handle those royalties and those payments? As the capacity grows, how am I going to work through it and support these titles? Where am I going to get the art? And then to some degree, like, what's the market going to bear? And how do I think of that slate? Am I doing more of the same? Is the thing I did such a big hit, I'm going to do more of it? Can I be derivative of what I've already done? Does it have to be fresh? Do I have a specific genre? Understanding your slate of games, how you're approaching it, and how you can have both, like risky bets and solid bets is important, right? Like, thinking about, okay, I made game A, it's done really well, people like it, I could probably do an expansion or a sequel to game A. Cool. That's totally different than saying, okay, well, I'm going to do game A, and now I'm going to do a and that's like a casual family game. Now I'm going to do a tactical war game with 3,000 minis, and I've never done it before. And I've never done the mini parts, I've never done tactical warfare, I've never done modern art, I've never talked to this audience before. all of those things create risk. And so you can do that, but you better make sure you also balance it out with low risk. One of the most important things, I can't emphasize it enough, cannot emphasize it enough. Risk is not additive. This risky thing, this risky thing, this risky thing. Risk is multiplicative, which is to say, if it's risky because it's miniatures, and it's risky because it's a new genre, and it's risky because it's a new market, and it's risky, that is exponentially, that is risk, time risk, because it's complex project development and management. So something goes off here, it tilts it off there, and none of it is a control. It's all just risk. So the more you can think about what you're doing and categorize it as pretty sure bet, this is something I've done before, but I'm switching this angle, I'm adding this risk. But you want to be careful when you're like risk, 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 when you're thinking about a stable long-term business. You will need, as a publisher, then to think about, again, how do you source your games? How are you going to find new designers and new games? How are you going to think about your Kickstarter? Kickstarter relationship is really important if you're going to take the Kickstarter route. How you think of your online retail relationship, online sales relationship, whether through your website or on Amazon or other partners. And then how you think about your long-term retail solution if that's part of your plan. Understand how your business makes money. Understand what channel and in which way it makes that money. I sound like a broken record and I apologize, but all of this, all of the understanding of where the money comes from, who the audience is, what they buy, in what amounts, how you move your product is a huge part of how you then build that into a stable and reasonable revenue stream that then can provide for you and your family and then provide you the ability to expand and build more and get help. Those are, yeah, and then like following, like this isn't the creative side, like how to make a game. I've done lots of videos on how to make a game, right? And all the cornerstones of that. But I think you want to be thinking about that. And then as you do, you want to be thinking about your brand as a company. You want to be thinking about your audience as a company and how you can continue to build and grow those things as you make more games. Sometimes people are creatively diverse, but the market and audience isn't necessarily. And so once you tap into a certain audience, it can be hard to go to different audiences. So I think those are all key things to keep in mind. I push people to look at like, so you want to run a Kickstarter video, which I've done. So you want to make a game type of video, I've done. But when you're saying, I've done all that, Ed, I got my game, my hit game, my 2 games, done 3 of these things, and I just really want to like go for it. That's where it's like, that's the financial business one. Make sure your business is in order and then take on those considerations and really think it through and think about, what do I look like in 6 months? What do I look like in 12 months? What do I look like in 2 years? What do I look like in 3 years? What do I look like in 5 years? It's not some like, you know, like highfalutin, like, oh, I have a 5-year business plan. It's like, look and understand the steps that lead to sustainable success. And if you can't do it, if that's too complicated, just keep doing what you're doing. And then at some point, just wait until, you know, your business is doing 4x or the phone rings, 4x what you're doing. So that's going to keep ringing. Yeah, there it goes. Thank you for your time. I hope that was helpful. And if you're going for it, go for it. Just do the math. Okay, bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.